Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I'm a little hot and sweaty because I've been working in the garden. I just finished planting my cucumbers, and I'll link the video for that up above. But now I am moving on to thinking about fall gardens. I'm in Utah, zone 6/7, and it is near the end of July. It's the third week in July. Just planted cucumbers. Like I said, I'll link the video up above on that and why I planted them this late. And now that my summer planting is done, I am immediately moving on to thinking about fall planting. So let me show you the bed that I'm going to be renovating and talk to you about what I'm going to plant in there. So this is the bed where I had my cabbages and kohlrabi and harvested some huge kohlrabi. The cabbages are looking good. Some of them are smaller than others, and we've definitely got some aphid damage on them, but we're going to harvest them because they're usable anyway. And then we're going to plant our fall crops in this bed. Now, when thinking about planting fall crops, there's several things that you need to do. Number one is you need to start a plan early in the year. Now, let's go online and I'll show you what my garden plan looks like. So this is my garden plan. We've got July and August up here. And I will link a video up at the top and down in the description on how I created this plan. But it looks like, looking at it now, I have altered things a little bit. We've taken the cabbage and the kohlrabi out here. We took the kohlrabi out a little bit earlier this month and then took the cabbage out now. And we're just going to plant the cabbage right back in that bed rather than in this one. In this one, I had some extra butternut squash and some extra watermelon and put those in there. And let's see, and the cucumbers were put where the garlic was because these cabbages weren't ready to be harvested yet. So we've altered it a little bit. Let's look at August, make sure I know what needs to go in and what I want to plant. So I do have some carrots and beets and leeks that I want to plant. The carrots and the beets will be direct seeded. The leeks I've already started a flat of those. So when the onions come out, we'll put those in there. So now that we've glanced at my garden plan, let's head back outside and harvest the cabbages. So now that you've seen what my garden plan looks like, you know that I have planned for this. This is going to be a fall bed where I'm going to be able to let these vegetables grow even past the first frost date. Now we do need to know when our first frost date is. I'm in Utah zone 6/7, and in my zone, our average first fall frost is September 15th. Now I want to get these plants into the ground soon enough that they can get most of their growth done before fall sets in. Now the reason isn't the cold temperatures, because they can withstand light frosts. Light frosts are 32 degrees. They can even stay alive all winter. I have more seedlings that I have started inside that are for my winter crops. Now let's go inside, show you my seedlings, what they look like right now, and then talk to you why I'm planting them at this time of year. So we're inside. This is my grow room. It's pretty bare right now compared to what it usually is. And I have a lot of videos of growing plants indoors. But these are my fall seeds that I'm going to be planting. They are really gorgeous right now. So what we're going to be planting for fall is we've got some cabbages, we've got some cauliflower back here, kohlrabi back there. This is, what is this? This is my kohlrabi right here. We've got some Asian greens, some new ones. This is the fadya or yad fa. I can't remember. I'll put the name on the screen, but it's a Chinese broccoli. It's a sprouting broccoli and it's wonderful. And then we've got some chiji misai back here that tastes like spinach, but it's a tatsoi cross. And these are all going to be going into the garden for fall. Plus I'm going to do some carrots and some parsnips. I'm going to try and start leeks and see how that works. That may not work, but we're going to try it and see. And some more beets for the fall. So these are the fall crops. And these were just newly started. We've got some chard and kale. We're going to do some more cabbage and kohlrabi. But these are my winter crops. You can see that I started my leeks. We started some parsnips. Cabbage is sprouting a little slower than everything else. But we're going to overwinter these in my hoop houses, and I'll link some videos down below of what I've done in the past and how I do that. And when it's time to plant these, which will be a little bit later in the year, we'll show you how we do that. Now before we plant my plants, we've got to harvest this cabbage first, and we're going to amend this bed with a little bit of nitrogen. We're going to be using blood meal. Now, I'm not going to use an all-purpose fertilizer or compost because I had these beds tested earlier this year, and they tested very extremely high in phosphorus and potassium and salts. And if I add compost, we could boost those levels up to possibly even toxic levels. So all this bed really needs is some nitrogen. We're going to scrape away this mulch and reuse it a little bit later, and then we're going to mulch it with more hay after we're done. Now, the only other thing that I'm going to need to do, and because of this video might span several days, is I've got to switch out my irrigation here to 4 lines. We have 3 lines in here, and I've had to hand water these for a long time because 3 lines is not enough. I'm going to switch it out to 4 lines, and it's going to take a while. Now, I'm not going to record changing out the irrigation because I've done several irrigation videos in the past, and I'll link those down below and up above to show you what my garden bed irrigation looks like. And it's basically going to just be doing a regular garden bed irrigation. I'm going to remove what I have here and add new irrigation. And it's going to be 4 lines like I do in my regular videos rather than the 3. These beds were installed when I first moved in here in 2007 by an irrigation contractor, and they've had 3 lines ever since. So it's about time that I switched them to 4. As I said, the 3 lines has never really been enough. I usually end up supplementing my beds with hand watering. But what we will show you is the harvest. So let's get harvesting the cabbage and see what they look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this cabbage right here at the base. Oh my word, there's a lot of aphids. So I'm not going to compost the foliage. I'm going to throw the foliage away. I don't want to propagate the aphids. Let's look at this little cabbage here. We have some cabbage worm damage too. But this is what my cabbage looks like. It's a decent sized head, and I think I'm probably going to turn this into sauerkraut. So let's get harvesting the rest. This one's pretty small. Now, only 4 of the 6 heads was actually usable. So I do have 4 nice sized heads of cabbage. I mean, they're not huge by any means, but they're nice and solid, and they're going to be very tasty. So I'll take those inside and use them. And then I didn't show you where these cabbages were because I thought they were a total failure. These are my purple cabbages, and they're nice tight heads, but they're really, really tiny, but they are still usable. So I'll take those inside and use them. And here's my empty bed. Let me pull up the irrigation so you can kind of see. So now you can see the 3 lines. We're just going to disconnect it over here, create another grid of 4, and then we're going to put it back together again. So we'll get that done, and we will be back on another day to show you how I plant my fall crops. So it's been a few days since we last filmed, and we got a lot done, and now we're completely ready to plant our plants. So this is for the fall garden. Let me show you what we have to plant, where we're going to plant it, and what we finished. So I was finally able to finish the irrigation. So now we have 4 lines instead of 3. Another thing that I did is I took my hoop houses that I have used for several years and finally glued them together. The pressure on them was making them come apart during the winter, and it wasn't a lot of fun to use them. But now they're solid, they're not going to come apart, they fit perfectly in the bed, and so I'm really excited about that. Now this is the last week in July, and it's been up in the hundreds, which is really way too hot for my cole crops or my brassicas. When I say cole crops, I'm not talking about cold, C-O-L-D, I'm talking about cole, C-O-L-E, which are the brassicas. It's way too hot for them, so I needed to put a shade covering over them. This is a 50% shade cloth, and this will just keep them a little cooler and help them grow. Now, I've planted fall crops at the end of July in 100-degree temperatures for many years now, so I know that these will do just fine. I just need to remember to keep them well watered. So what we're going to be planting in this bed, we've got some Chiji Misai. This is a cross between Komatsuna and Tatsoi, and it is really, really good. I use it in the place of spinach. The next one is a fun one. This is Chinese sprouting broccoli. So it doesn't form big heads like broccoli does, it just forms small sprouts, and it's kind of a cross between a broccoli and an asparagus taste. I grew these in the spring and absolutely loved them, so we planted more. And then in the back, I've done again what I promised myself I would never do, but I'm just going to do it anyway. I am crowding my cauliflower together. We've got some purple cauliflower, and we've got some yellow cauliflower over here. And we've got 6 of those in the back of this bed. So this bed is pretty crowded, but you know what? It's just going to have to suffer and deal with it. Now this bed, I did the same thing. I fixed my hoop house, glued it together so it's stable, put up a shade cloth, and changed out the irrigation so we have 4 lines instead of 3. And in this one, we're going to have cabbage in the front, then we're going to have some collards in the middle, and then we've got some kohlrabi in the back. So this one is just as crowded as the other one, but I think that they should do just fine. Now before we get to planting, let's show you just really quickly what else we have growing. Right in here, I put in my extra butternut squash. We've got some watermelons. Nothing is producing yet, but they're looking good, so I know that we will get some fruit off of them. These are the cucumbers that I just planted, and they are really taking off. They're growing really, really quickly. I'm really excited about these. The hot weather makes them grow fast, and we're going to be getting cucumbers before you know it. Now I did have some extra cauliflower this is the white cauliflower, and I just put these around the edges. These are not going to get shade, so I don't know how they're going to do. We'll just have to see how it does. I've harvested a few onions, and there's a few more that are ready, but not all of them are ready yet. This year has made everything take a lot longer to mature. Seems like the red onions were the smallest, but they were the ones that were ready to pick the first. You could tell when onions are ready to pick when they start falling over like this. So you can see that we have some more of the white onions that have fallen over. But none of my yellow ones have fallen over yet. My peppers are looking amazing. We've got a ton of peppers on here. My brother is finally going to come over to do a taste test for me, but I've been eating a few and they are absolutely delicious. Some of them are too hot for me, but we're going to do a pepper video a little bit later. Some of them are just absolutely gorgeous. This one is a Griff 9238. Now I've already amended the beds with blood meal. The blood meal is a good nitrogen source. It's an organic nitrogen source, and that's the only thing that my beds are lacking. And I know that because I actually tested my beds in the spring. So now that everything's ready, let's get planting. Now we've got everything planted and watered in. Really excited that we've got some fall crops going. And I wanted to show you one of my extra spaces in here. I always have something that volunteers in my compost pile. This year we've got a cherry tomato. I thought I saw a few little cherries on here somewhere. Yep, down there. Got some cherry tomatoes starting. And then usually I get a squash. Sometimes it's a surprise squash, but this year, instead of squash, we've got cucumbers. Volunteer cucumbers. It'll be interesting to see how they taste. And we've got another tomato over there. So hopefully you've thought about fall planting and have started some of your crops, because there's so much that you can still grow, even starting at the end of July. Now, the one thing that you do need to watch is you need to watch the days to maturity, and you can find that on the back of the seed packets, and then make sure you have enough time. Now, the fall crops that I've planted are definitely frost tolerant, so we can get those early fall frosts and still have those grow. Now, if I want them to grow through the winter, all I need to do is cover them and they will grow through the winter. Matter of fact, I showed you that I have my winter cabbages started already, and those will be covered and grow all winter, and then I'll harvest them in the spring. So don't forget your shoulder gardening seasons, the early spring and the fall, and that gives you a lot more opportunity to grow food. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.